Tales from the Crypt is the most famous of the Amicus horror anthologies, a genius marriage of the company's established formula and EC Comics' beloved back catalogue. But does the quality of the movie justify that reputation? Here's how I would rate and rank each spooky segment. In last place, but still within the respectable B category, I nominate the wraparound story that connects the various episodes. A group of strangers embark on a tour of some English catacombs. There's a fantastic atmosphere of uncanniness that runs through this piece. Nothing feels right. The characters are lost. There's a dreamlike slowness. None of them really understand why they stopped off at this tour in the first place. And that's all before you get to the magically appearing Ralph Richardson as the Crypt Keeper. He's great, a far cry from the pun-addicted puppet we're more familiar with now. He pries into each of the trapped guests, testing them with persistent, repetitious phrases.
Where did you come from?
All in good time.
Look, how do we get out of here?
All in good time.
I'm on my way home to see my wife and children.
And then... And then...
And then?
And then...
Much like Torture Garden, he appears to be warning them against dark deeds they're about to commit. Deeds that will bring them to grisly, untimely ends. However, the uncanny nature of this wraparound story is explained in its final moments. The Crypt Keeper is not warning them of things to come, he's showing them what's already occurred. These people have died without repentance, and now they are confined to this hell for all eternity. Savvy audiences will have predicted this, from the fact that Joan Collins has her brooch, but she doesn't receive until her segment. Is it a little similar to the end of Dr. Terror? Maybe, but it works well. At the risk of upsetting a good chunk of my viewers, out of the actual short stories, the one I would rank last is perhaps the most well-known segment, and all through the house. That's not to say it's bad. I don't think this film has any truly bad segments. It's just my least favourite. Anyone who's seen my ranking of the TV show's first season will know that I much prefer that version. It had better direction, it was scarier, and simply had a bit more substance to it. But this iteration has Joan Collins' eyeshadow, so, you know. Collins plays a murderous wife who dispatches her husband during the festive holidays. Her attempts to cover up the crime are sometimes interrupted by the arrival of a nosy Santa Claus. And then she gets back to work, not really worrying about the threat. And then Santa returns. There's not much to it, honestly, and the two story threads, the marital murder and the killer Santa, feel a little disconnected, other than the dead body preventing her from calling the cops, that is. The TV adaptation took it a step further, with the cunning wife realizing she can now pin her crimes on this new unexpected villain. Away with this negativity! I do like Collins, and the newspaper shot is a cool way of showing the kill, though she maybe should have waited until he wasn't next to the spotless white shag carpet. The less extreme makeup on this Santa makes him a more grounded threat than in the TV show. He's more like your regular mall Santa, who's had enough of all the bratty kids and has finally snapped. It's still scary enough, home invasions are always going to be tense on some level, but in the end, perhaps old Saint Nick just wanted to give Joan a nice massage for Christmas. Ho ho ho! Sliding up to the A category, up next is Blind Alleys. This is the last segment of the movie, and I believe the longest too. Major William Rogers, a man from a strict military background, is hired to run a home for the blind. He swiftly turns the place into a regimented prison. Heating is switched off at night, and no blankets are provided.
Food, all right?
The food offered is inedible slop, and any dissonance, however peaceful or rational it may be, is immediately shut down by the Major's aggressive hound. All these cutbacks are made to save the Institute some money, so the new leader says. Meanwhile, he's splashing out on luxury decorations for his office, and treating himself to daily fine dining.
Try the wine.
He's cruel and has exactly zero respect for blind people. So the residents, led by Patrick McGee, stage a revolt. Ironically, their very well-devised scheme and operation would be admired by the Major if he wasn't the target. They lure the dog into captivity, and therefore can strike at him, eventually placing him inside a constructed maze of razor-blade walls. Then they unleash the starved beast against the Major, and shut out the light on him and all. A fitting revenge indeed. Maybe this was John Kramer's favourite movie as a kid. The elaborate conclusion is obviously the high point. Who doesn't love razor-blade walls? Come on! Beyond that, the story all works neatly together and the cast is very strong. So, why is it in 4th place? What's the problem? It doesn't rank higher for me because it almost feels like a retread of an earlier entry in this very movie. Marginalised individuals gradually worn down by a symbol of an uncaring upper class until they eventually exact their own brutal, ironic justice? And the trouble is, that earlier entry does a much better job, but we'll get to that one in good time.
All in good time.
In good time.
All in good time.
For now, in 3rd place, we have Reflection of Death. A man pretends to be leaving for a trip, but in reality, he is abandoning his family to start a new life with a younger lady. Emotions are already running high. His painful farewell to his daughter, and the obvious regrets that he can't quite bear to express, it's all handled surprisingly tastefully and sincerely.
You meet someone and suddenly that's it. I kiss my kids tonight and...
Per his mistress's offer, he lets her take the wheel to get some much-needed kip. He awakes in fright, having suffered some terrible dream. But the real terror is yet to come. The driver is distracted, and a major roly-poly accident occurs. Roly-poly, roly-poly. From here on out, we either only see the man's hands, or we are resigned to his POV. Therefore, we know something's up. But what? It's really quite creepy. The slow movements, the fact that everyone he encounters scurries away in utter fright, and that both his family life and new life both seem odd, not quite right. Anticipation is this segment's greatest feat. By its conclusion, you can't stand to wait any longer for the reveal. Of course, he perished in the crash, years ago now. He's a horrid corpse, and life has moved on without him. And upon realizing this, he awakes again in terror in that very same car, a prisoner to this horrendous nightmare evermore. I am a sucker for a good time loop terror. It's a certain kind of endless punishment that really crawls under my skin. For now, in 3rd place, we have Reflection of Death. Just kidding. Time loop humour. This next segment might only be taking home the silver medal, but it is still worthy of an S-tier placement. It's time for Wish You Were Here. It is a spin on the classic monkey paw story, wherein our protagonists are granted 3 wishes, and while each wish technically comes true, they are laced with a cruel twist. In this version of the tale, a husband and wife are facing bankruptcy, partly due to all this nonsense spending on antiques. Among their collection is this mysterious Chinese statue. Ooh. They notice for the first time that the figure is inscribed with a message, outlining the 3 wishes' power. Naturally, given their impending financial ruin, the wife wishes for loads of money. The husband is called away, and is chased by a very slick Grim Reaper on wheels. Nice. He dies in the accident, but the life insurance makes the wife rich again. Typical monkey paw shenanigans. Oh, check out this neat piece of directing from Freddie Francis, as the wife realizes the statue's abilities. The characters are aware of the monkey paw tale, and try to use that to their advantage. Fools, fools, you can't outwit a monkey paw. I want my husband back, but I don't want a zombie at the door. We've already seen how that turns out. So I'll ask the statue to bring him back, as he was just before the accident No, joke's on you, milady. He wasn't actually killed in a crash, but suffered a heart attack beforehand. So here he is, still dead, and now in your front room. Oi, 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 desperate times call for desperate wishes. She demands that her partner is brought back to life and that he'll live forever. Now, this is the masterstroke of the segment. The husband is alive again, but his body has been pumped full of embalming fluid, so he's in absolute agony, burning through his bloody veins. And yeah, he'll live forever, so he's trapped suffering forever. The wife runs and grabs a sword and hacks him to pieces. But remember, he'll live forever, so he and all the individual body parts still keep on living. And I thought he smelled bad on the outside. Completely, utterly savage. I love it. Wish You Were Here is one of the definitive adaptations of the monkey's paw story, for sure. Therefore, my favourite segment from Tales from the Crypt is the story titled Poetic Justice. Peter Cushing plays Arthur Grimsdyke, a widowed bin man who is a bit of a local hero to the children in the area. He fashions special toys out of the discarded rubbish, lets them play with his host of friendly dogs, and is generally a lovable old grandfatherly figure.
Fly away, Peter. Fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter. Come back, Paul. That's it.
However, across the road lives the beige Tory version of Billy Joe Armstrong. He believes Grimsdyke's house to be an eyesore, an unacceptable blot on his community. So he plans to wear the elderly man down until he's forced to sell his home and move out, so that the place can be tidied up.
But you mustn't take them away. They're my friends.
The evil bastard gets the dogs removed on false grounds. He strong-arms the council into getting him fired, and if that's not enough, he unites the parents of the children against him, accusing him of very sordid things indeed. Each part of this scheme chips away at Grimsdyke's resolve, leaving him a very broken, very lonely man. The last nail in the coffin, almost literally, is the neighbour's Valentine's scheme. He sends a fat stack of letters to Arthur's home, each imbued with a hurtful Valentine's poem.
Some people live in the country, some people live in the town. Why don't you do us a service? Jump in the river.
This pushes him to the end of his rope. Definitely literally. But it's okay. A year later, on Valentine's Day, he returns to enact the poetic justice of the title. His zombie body rises, not only to kill the neighbour, but to remove his heart to use as a Valentine's Day punchline. As I said before, it shares similarities to the Blind Alley's story, but I think this tale is just superior, a perfect mix of emotion and horror. Cushing is kinda playing against type. We're so used to him playing well-kept gentlemen, though his real-life warmth shines through magnificently here. When Grimsdyke reads all the letters, the way we linger in his lonely victimization, oof, heartbreaking. If this doesn't touch your soul, you don't have a soul. This solidarity with Grimsdyke makes the justice so much sweeter. The zombie get-up is a delight too, even if HD copies of the film don't do it any favours. Oakley dokley, those were my opinions, but what are your thoughts on the 1972 Tales from the Crypt? Who will be next to rank the segments in the comments below?
Perhaps you?